Quick PSA before we get started. If you are sending me a donation deck list, please send me the deck list over Discord or email or something like that. If you send me a link via PayPal, that link will fully just be deleted automatically by PayPal. And on that note, Greg, you donated for a mono red deck. I need your deck list. I tried to message you via PayPal and I didn't hear back from you. All right, let's get into it. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we are going to be playing Phyrexian Dreadnought Lands. This is a little bit ambitious, but the core idea is pretty cool. So this comes to us from Snoot, and I have not made too many changes to it. So, core idea here is that Urza's Saga is a very consistent way to tutor up your Phyrexian Dreadnought. And while a lot of times Legacy players will use a Dress Down or a Stifle effect to keep their Phyrexian Dreadnought, we are instead going to use the Mycosynth Gardens. So the important ability here is the final one. For X mana, which in our case is usually going to be 1, this land becomes a top copy of target Phyrexian Dreadnought artifact you control with mana value 1. So this is our game plan. Beat our opponent to death with some Urza Saga Construct tokens, and when we're done with this Urza Saga, we are just going to go and convert it directly into a 12/12 Trampler. And occasionally, we might even just be able to fairly pay for the Phyrexian Dreadnought with a couple of Urza Saga Construct tokens. That's honestly on the table too, although we don't have all that many artifacts, even after I added a few more, so that's not the most likely. This is not the only way that we can keep a Phyrexian Dreadnought. We can play a Phyrexian Dreadnought and then somehow, at instant speed, put in a Talon Gates of Madara. We can then phase out our Phyrexian Dreadnought and then keep it. So we can do this via crop rotation or an Elvish Reclaimer activation. So Snoot's original deck list was very light on true green sources. I have taken out a couple of flex slots and added in just 2 straight up basic lands to help with casting Elvish Reclaimer on turn 1. The Mycosynth Gardens and Talon Gates of Madara are green sources, but they are not green sources on turn 1. So I have increased the green count a little bit, which I think is important if we are ever going to cast these double green pip cards from the sideboard for their actual mana cost. Yavimaya will help out with that a lot, but I still want to have a few more true green sources in the deck. As when this deck was first given to me, this felt like a colorless deck that was splashing green, but if you're splashing green, having something that you want to play on turn 1 feels a little awkward. The original deck had only 2 copies of Phyrexian Dreadnought. I have increased it up to the full playset. And while sometimes Phyrexian Dreadnought is going to awkwardly rot in our hand, I think current Legacy is really about doing something dumb and powerful quickly. And if we have Ancient Tomb or Mox Diamond, we can potentially make a Phyrexian Dreadnought on turn 1 or 2. So we can do something like play Ancient Tomb, play Mycosynth Gardens, one of our Ancient Tomb mana goes towards casting a Dreadnought, and the other mana and the Mycosynth Gardens then goes towards copying it. So I think this is a reasonable plan to come out of the gates quickly and do something that can keep up with some of the nut draws of other decks. But we are often going to be looking at slowing down the game. The other cool thing that Mycosynth Gardens can do is just repeatedly copy Sphere of Resistances, and we have way more mana sources in our deck than the average Legacy deck does. We are at 31 mana sources here. And then there's some other things that kind of contribute to mana sources beyond that. The sideboard doesn't have too many interesting things worth talking about here. It's a lot of singleton targets, either for crop rotation or for Urza's Saga. And a few more redundant copies of Sphere of Resistance for when we get paired against combo. Again, if we can dump a couple of Spheres and Thorns into play and then copy them, that can keep a lot of combo decks from playing a reasonable game of Magic the Gathering. With that, I think we'll go ahead and hop into a league here. Folks, if you need any Magic cards, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. Promo code ThrabenU will save you a little bit on your order, and you always get free shipping when you order from TOA. And I love that about them. Plus, you get everything from one vendor, one trusted vendor, in one envelope, instead of a billion envelopes appearing over the next 2 to 3 weeks when you're wondering, gee, are those cards ever actually going to arrive? All right. Support them, and they support me. Okay, let's battle. Okay, I am down to keep this hand. You can see some of the awkwardness of running just a ton of colorless lands here, but I think this is a hand where we hope that Urza's Saga wins the game by itself. I believe it is correct to just, in the dark, Pithing Needle Wasteland here, and make it so that I cannot lose this critical Urza's Saga. And if Wasteland is not on the table for my opponent, and I have Life from the Loam to bring back my Urza's Saga later on, we have a very good long-term plan, and then we just have to hope not to die to combo. Well, there's a Bojuka Bog. Drawing that is actually awkward. It means that I have fewer outs in my deck to interrupting their combo. Land drop 2. Are we dead? Yep, we are dead on turn 2. Alright. I'm going to make an Urza Saga token and then F6, and we will just confirm that my opponent has the kill, but they should. We're basically just taking a look at what is in their deck here, so that we know what we have to play around for the sideboard games. This deck has gotten so incredibly consistent, by the way. Both Nadu decks had a positive win rate at the American Eternal Weekend. I believe that the Nadu mid-range deck had about a 56% win rate on the weekend, and that the version that we're playing against now, usually referred to as Cephalid Breakfast, had like a 51 or 52% win rate. I don't remember exactly what they were, but they were somewhere in that ballpark. So is there anything interesting here? There's Spell Pierce to think about in some flex slots. Otherwise, this is pretty normal. Relatively light on removal, like there's some swords and Prismatic Ending here. And a main deck Ghost Vacuum as an Urza Saga target. Okay. Opponent says, good thing I was on the draw. Yeah, this is a very different game if I lose the die roll there. Very, very different game. So, once my opponent's shit is in play, I basically lose. The Torpor Orb is randomly kind of cool versus stopping the literal Thassa's Oracle win. The opponent says Needle would have done some serious damage to my hand. Into this. I might end up playing these out of desperation. I can probably sub another land for this. And then we fall to the next tier of cards that are probably clearly worse, but still in consideration. And Force of Vigor is reasonable, but less so if I want to go down this rabbit hole. The Shadow Spear and Lava Spur Boots type cards can probably come out. The Reclaimers and Crop Rotations are reasonable. If I board up these extra cards, Malevolent Rumble and Life from the Loam both become worse. I have to respect like Nadu Beatdown and Urza Saga Beatdown at the same time that I respect a turn 2 combo and a separate but overlapping turn 3 combo. It's very frustrating. I think I'm going to go down these. Azavith targets in a very awkward way versus Nadu. I guess I'm still at an appropriate land count. Sorry, like 60 card count though, if I board like this. Let's try this on the play, and then maybe on the draw I don't do Thorn of Amethysts, and I instead do Force of Vigor and get some other green cards back into the deck. This gets Elvish Reclaimer going for like Caracas and Wasteland type shenanigans very quickly. I don't really know if this is actually good. I can get a bunch of things that are annoying, but none of this actually progresses me towards a win. I think this is a reasonable hand of Magic the Gathering cards that plays a game of Magic, but usually loses. Are we trying to get the freebie? I think we are trying to get the freebie. I'm going to keep this. I don't think I need the Mox Diamond. I think I just make land drops forever and just go sphere, 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 sphere. If the Sphere of Resistance does not resolve on turn 1, I am fucked. Here we go. Opponent is on 6 cards. There's a sphere. Oh, I don't like how long this has been on the stack. Fuck. Okay. I have 4 dead cards in hand now. What was pitched to that? Another Force of Will. Got it. Well, I can make my opponent's life more awkward, which I think I will do. If I play this out, they can't surveil land at end of turn. Is probably what would have happened otherwise. Opponent fetches. They do have basics in their deck. They choose a shuffle. There's not another land drop there. Drawing that's awful. Now I can't crop rotation or reclaimer for it later. I'm gonna just play this. Then in an absolute emergency, I do have access to Boseiju. Alright, the good news is that my opponent is not doing anything. The bad news is I am not doing anything either. The opponent sat there in their second main phase for a very long time, as if they had some legal game action they could take and chose not to take it. My read on that is that they have something like a brainstorm, where if they cast it and it does not work, they just lose the game on the spot, effectively, by just time walking themselves twice. And my read was correct. They wait another turn, get a card deeper before they cast that brainstorm. Unfortunately, I just drew another land, so I've got just no follow-up here. There is a Shuko. I can Boseiju that at will. I will almost certainly wasteland this tropical island on my own turn. Notably, I could put in a Talon Gates of Madara as an extra instant speed land drop here. I'm not going to do that. I might have other uses for that land a little bit later on. Wasteland you. And at this point, I think I'm just going to get a tapped land out of the way. Bog you. We are not going to Boseiju Shuko immediately, as it will give my opponent a land drop. I didn't take a screenshot of their lands. I don't remember for sure if they have other lands, other basic lands. I don't want to risk that. This is the downside of your deck being 37 mana sources, or whatever the number was. I think it was like 37. It was a lot. But opponent is not doing anything, so we've got that going for us. Over. I can't play that land and turn my opponent's island into tropical island. I'll make a land drop. There's the next land drop, and opponent is just chilling. There is a Phyrexian Dreadnought. I can do stuff with that. Alright, math. Play Phyrexian Dreadnought with 1 mana. Copy it twice with this mana. That is 2 mana remaining. I do not have the mana to Talon's Gate out the original on top of that. But here we go. That is just a consign to memory. This is getting countered. I don't get to do all my fun things. Alright, opponent is continuing to pass the turn here. Again, we're not going to go after this Shuko immediately. Okay. This is pretty sweet if it resolves. I think we pay for this like this. That is unfortunately a Force of Will. And I think I will just pass the turn here. Turn 9. Neither player has dealt the other any points of damage yet. Alright, we're doing this again. Bam, 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 bam. 1, 2, 3. If I make a land drop here, I could also have the ability to phase this out. Making this land drop is very awkward, though. So I don't think I am going to do that. We will cast Phyrexian Dreadnought. Alright, we are in play. I would like to copy Phyrexian Dreadnought. Alright, I have a copy. 1, 2, 3, 4. That would not leave open Boseiju. That's okay. Let's just go ahead and make another copy. This leaves open Boseiju. So now I will just sacrifice you. I have 24 power in play. Opponent does not currently have access to real white mana. Now they do. So I think my hope here is that my opponent taps out for a Nadu, and then I Boseiju Shuko, and my opponent dies. There's the second fetch. Alright, there's the bird. There's the Boseiju. Now, hopefully opponent does not have another 1 mana thing that combos off with this in hand. Prismatic Ending on one of my Dreadnoughts. Sure. Mox Diamond is not what I am looking for. I will wasteland one of your lands out of play. I will crash in for 12 of your life points. Going to 3. I think I basically never want to play Yavimaya. I'm going to go ahead and discard that. And then I can do Talon Gates if I need to. Alright, there is another land drop. There's a Thassa's Oracle, which is fine. Opponent hits me for 3. So, do you have a swords? I guess. Let's find out. Great. So now I am just fully dead to my opponent's combo if they draw it. I technically have some interaction versus it. Yeah, so I can technically like phase this Nadu out until my turn, and then they have to wait until my turn to draw 2, 4, 6 cards and make a whole bunch of land drops. Game's over. We don't sit through Nadu combo on this channel anymore. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. If you want to see upcoming sets, if you want to understand commander brackets, or if you just want an awesome place to store all, and I mean all, of your deck lists, Moxfield is the place. You can organize all of your decks by folders, and you can even change the views. You like visual, they've got that. You like text, they've got that. Check out my Moxfield Pro Field if you want to see all, and I mean all, of the decks that I've been cooking up. Okay, what are we doing here? It says good luck. I'm a huge fan. Okay, and this is a time where not having the turn 2 green mana is awkward. Having Urza's Saga as a disappearing land with a Sphere of Resistance hand is also awkward. I think I can do better. Oh, this is not better. We're going to 5. Okay, this is totally fine. Wait, is this good? Snow-covered forest, Mox Diamond, discard Wasteland, play Life from the Loam, immediately getting back Wasteland, and then I get to keep 1 card on top of that? Yeah. I'm always getting rid of you, and the second Mox Diamond is pretty cool, but Sphere of Resistance is my interaction. There's also the timeline where I just play Sphere of Resistance on turn 1 and go, hey, roughly 50% of the time I draw my next land next turn to just Life from the Loam and take over the game. That is super reasonable as well. I'm just gonna do that. Let's just bank on that greater than 50% chance to draw a mana source here. Oh shit, my opponent just died. Straight up just died to Sphere of Resistance. Okay, we got the freebie. I'm going to assume that this comes in. My opponent is almost certainly an unfair deck of some kind if they just can't beat a game 1 Sphere of Resistance. That probably means that the other things that look roughly like this are going to be good. And this stuff falls into a tier 2 of, like, it's questionable how useful it is. Against the presumably unfair deck, I don't think I need these 2 cards. Crop rotation for Bog may or may not be important. Crop rotation for, like, Wasteland or Gardens or whatever is still fine. I don't know whether it's graveyard-based combo or not, and that's a big deal for the evaluation of these cards. I'm going to get rid of Pithing Needle. I'm going to keep Soul Guide Lantern in the dark. And I think I'm going to get rid of some Elvish Reclaimers for being slow. I think this is my plan versus unknown expected combo deck. Turn 1 Sphere. In. Can I play cards after my own Sphere? Great question. Great question. Okay, so we're looking at Storm here. So I presumably lose Sphere of Resistance, and then I can Disruptor Flute, maybe just on like Beseech the Mirror as my opening play. Opponent says spicy. You're not wrong. You are not wrong, friend. Lion's Eye Diamond played out. Yeah, that's just in respect of another Sphere effect. Okay, cool. This means that I can play an Elvish Reclaimer on turn 1. That's what that means, actually. I'll discard this, throw this down, play out a threat. I'm going to pass the turn, and I'll probably Disruptor Flute at my opponent's end step, unless some mana goes on the stack, in which case I will Disruptor Flute in response to something like a Dark Ritual. Urza's Saga. That's also a reasonable Disruptor Flute to target. Never mind. That one's scarier. Disruptor Flute. We'll just stop that immediately. Oh, shit. I mean, I'm in. I'm in. It's a little awkward, but I'm in. Give him the rod. So this also shuts off the artifact land there. Makes my life from Loam significantly worse because I don't have green mana right now. Hopefully that's fine. Don't play Ancient Tomb. Don't play Ancient Tomb. Don't play Ancient Tomb. Nice. Oh, it's another vault. Yeah. Get in there. Oh, this is so hateful for my opponent. Yep, we have fully gotten the GG from my opponent. What a draw on my end. Sphere, Disruptor Flute, Null Rod. It takes a little while for my opponent to die, but this is very rough to play through. Opponent floats mana and concedes after taking a look at their deck just to make sure there weren't any outs to my random pile of bullshit. GG's. Okay, so opponent is a fan of the channel and says, no, my secret tech. I think I am going to keep this hand. I'm just going to confirm. I have 2 Talon Gates, right? Yeah, I have 2 Talon Gates. So I can make a Phyrexian Dreadnought on turn 2, assuming that nothing goes wrong. I might not do that. I might just straight up wasteland my opponent. Volcanic Island and a Ponder. Yeah, in these circumstances where, like, I highly suspect that my opponent is going to be playing something like a Blue-Red Delver variant or a Show and Tell variant, both of which have counterspells, I don't think I need to just fire off. I'm so fucking upset right now. I'm so upset. That was a 1 in 53 chance for me to just draw the random Talon Gates of Madara there. I'm so upset. Alright. Hand got so much worse, holy shit. New Volcanic Island and Unholy Heat. I can crop rotation and try to get myself out of this. And I think I am into it. This is a very high risk, very high reward play. Damn it. If it worked, I was going to get to wasteland my opponent and save Elvish Reclaimer at the same time. And this is obviously our confirmation that our opponent is Blue-Red Delver. And now we're going to slow our roll for a little while. Lava Spur Boots. Obviously nothing to trigger there. Bam. Again, I cannot reiterate how bad it was that we drew the second Talon Gates. Bulk comes back down. Okay, I mean, this is a plan now. This is just make construct tokens and then find Shadow Spear, which is hopefully fine. Okay, cool. We avoided Wasteland. That's problem number 1 dodged. We would now like to dodge a Kori Steelcutter or a Murktide Regent this turn. We did not pass that test. Mycosynth Gardens. That's interesting. Play Dreadnought. Copy Dreadnought. I can't equip it. So if I go for Dreadnought this turn, I lose to a Brazen Borrower. I don't have anything like a Spell Bomb that answers a Murktide Regent cleanly. The Force of Will effect is pretty bad here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5 with lifelink. And eventually gain 6 with a Shadow Spear attack. I don't think I'm willing to cast Phyrexian Dreadnought here. I think the game just ends too frequently on the spot. Oh, there's the tech. Fear of missing out. The opponent does not have Delirium, but another Murktide Regent attack could really mess up my planning. So there's no instant in there yet. 13. Yeah, so all it takes is 1 more card type getting in graveyard. Then my opponent just gets an extra combat step. And that could just be a creature if my opponent blocks. I think that helps. I think that is helpful. So here's this. Get the Shadow Spear. I think I fully just go to combat. Attack in for 4. See if my opponent will block with this to get their extra card type in graveyard, which they do. Nice. So I took out this creature for free because I am just going to Bojuka Bog them anyway. This will grow Murktide Regent by 1, but this is hopefully fine. Now the fear of missing out can't attack, and hopefully I out life gain what my opponent is doing. It is, I suppose, possible for my opponent to put 4 card types into graveyard. It requires a bunch of specific cards, like it would now require like a Ponder and a Bobble or something like that. Ori Steelcutter, okay. I take 8 in the air. I am at 5. 2 card types in graveyard. I can just choose to phase out Murktide Regent to more or less never die. Or I can go for the lifelink. So the lifelink gains 4, 5, 6, putting me to 11. And I have 1 blocker back for fear of missing out. Margins are real tight with Ori Steelcutter here. I also have lines where I just Mycosynth Gardens and copy construct tokens. Can that be lethal? 6-12? No. I think I'm going to go for the phase out Murktide line. Crash in with both and attempt to produce lethal next turn. Alright, opponent blocks. Alright. There's a Brainstorm. There's Unholy Heat with 4 card types on a construct token. I think I just have to let that happen because I need all 4 of my mana for the phasing out of Murktide Regent here. There's Talon Gates. Yeah. Phase out Murktide Regent. Damn it. That'll do. So what else could I have done? I could have gone play Dreadnought 1 and 2, equip Dreadnought, give Dreadnought haste, swing in for extra points of damage there. I'll lose to a counterspell instead. Tricky spot. Alright, this exiles Ori Steelcutter. This deals with graveyard, and then I can decide if I want some other things that deal with Ori Steelcutter or just another generic land. I can also consider Glacial Chasm as something that I can tutor up. I think I need to consider whether or not I want to be on the Sphere of Resistance plan or whether or not I just want a pile of good cards. I think it's hard to do both. I'm going to board out Torpor Orb here. The easiest way to sideboard is this. But my opponent is a Ori Steelcutter deck and doesn't have a ton of land, so the Sphere of Resistance is not only protect stuff from combo, but also keep my opponent from... I think I said that wrong. They not only protect my stuff from Force of Wills, but they also stop my opponent from doing their little combos with Ori Steelcutter and getting monks, which absolutely matters. I think I'm going fair here. Get this Glacial Chasm in over maybe just 1 colorless land of some kind. I could also choose not to crop rotation, which is something that I'll often do versus blue decks because you go down a land when you cast it. But it may just be that access to Glacial Chasm at the tail end of this game is just so important that I can't get rid of that. There's Mox Diamond. Discard a land. Play a land. I think I'm going to start here and just Malevolent Rumble. Wasteland immediately to hand. I can get Wasteland back with Life from the Loam next turn. It might be better to just take Mox Diamond. Let's do that. Or right now. What about right now? Discard a Boseiju, Life from the Loam, Boseiju, Wasteland, Yavimaya. 1 and 2. Are we resolving? Nice. Now I don't need to dredge Life from the Loam with 4 different valid land drops in hand. I will just take a natural draw. My opponent knows that I have Wasteland, but fetches Volk anyway. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. No dredge. There is Wasteland. Wasteland U. Pass turn. Another Volcanic Island and a Ponder. I will get hit for 1. This is fine. I will dredge the Life from the Loam here. Ooh, Maze of Ith is a great pickup. Bam, bam, bam. 1 and 2. Okay, it just works. Wasteland, Volcanic Island, number 2. Opponent has land drop number 3. Basic Island this time. And Ponder. And there's a Bobble. And crack it. We're at 3 types for DRC right now, so I'm still only taking 1, which is great. 18. And now I will get Maze of Ith going. We are not going to dredge Life from the Loam. I have way too many lands in hand. Wasteland is an okay natural pickup here. There is a Volk. We don't want to see Murktide Regent here specifically. Okay, cool. So, Maze you. End of turn. I will Osage you the Quarry Steelcutter before that becomes a problem. There's a Surveil land. We are not dredging. Haywire Might. That's kind of whatever. I'll attack a land here. Honestly, I think it's probably fine to continue to attack my opponent's lands. This also potentially shuffles for the Surveil land from a second ago. So there's a new volcanic island. I don't think I'm going to play out Haywire Might. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to play out Haywire Might. All right, opponent has done a very good job of hitting land drops. I'm not sure how many land drops are actually remaining in their deck, because I've destroyed a couple of volcanic islands. Yeah, there's 3. This might not represent anything. Yeah, that might not actually represent any mana. Dredge. Wasteland. Boseiju. Wasteland. Bam. Alright, there's a Force of Will pitching a Brazen Borrower. That's fine. Does mean that my opponent gets a turn with a decent amount of mana. I will play out Haywire Might this turn in case my opponent plays a Quarry Steelcutter on their next turn. Brainstorm. Yeah, I don't know if my opponent is going to have a fetchable land with Misty Rainforest. Another DRC. My opponent now is capable of pushing damage, but it's only 3 damage a turn. So I think this is fine. I'll continue to dredge. Oh, Glacial Chasm. That is sweet for later. I'm going to pick that up now. Glacial Chasm, Boseiju, Wasteland. There we go. That is another Force of Will. Opponent likes whatever their top card is. This is probably time to deploy Urza Saga, because now I can activate Urza's Saga while playing Life from the Loam and Wastelanding. Seems reasonable. Fear of missing out. Or enchantment, or non-creature enchantment. Yep, so my opponent discards a card, then draws a card, and they don't have anything to discard, so that's just a card draw. I will maze one of these. Make 3. I'm definitely dredging. But due to the fear of missing out, this might now need to be Glacial Chasm. Let's go Glacial Chasm. Well, no, I can just Boseiju Fear of Missing Out. Let's go Boseiju, Wasteland. Maybe still pick up the Glacial Chasm anyway. Yeah, cool. Let's Boseiju, a Fear of Missing Out. Yeah, there's nothing left over there. Very nice. And I think I'll just give up on Urza Saga constructs in the short term. Let's just Wasteland Volcanic Island. So now, I believe that my opponent has no other mana producing things in their deck other than that island. So they can attack me for 3, but I never have to worry about getting lightning bolted or anything. So I don't want to play a Yavimaya because that turns this into a colorless mana source. I think my opponent's options are now incredibly limited. I don't need to dredge Life from the Loam right now. Although I can do it and get another Urza Saga back immediately, or potentially find Bojuka Bog. Sure, you've talked me into it. Alright, so activate with Urza's Saga. I'm just going to find Shadow Spear. I will get that equipped next turn. I don't need to do that immediately. Is that the concession? That is the concession. All right, cool. We dodged for a few turns in the middle where my opponent could have stuck a Murktide Regent and the game could have gotten much harder. But long-term prospects were really, really good once my Life from the Loam did not eat Force of Negation. Does having Fear of Missing Out and Ori Steelcutter in the deck make me want to Force of Vigor? That might tilt it far enough to where, like, that's reasonable over some crop rotations. There's still a lot of green cards for Endurance and Force of Vigor, although I'd really, really, really prefer not to use Endurance as a pitch card. I would like to cast that whenever possible. This is roughly fine. I don't know that I'm in love with crop rotation. It's just one of the few things that I put on the stack that I really, really care about if it gets countered. But Glacial Chasm buys so much time. I don't think I'm going to cut more of those. I could just play 2 more lands just in the slots where those are, and that would be perfectly reasonable to do. This is going to be a very different looking game from the last couple of games. This is just me fully playing fair cards versus my opponent, and we see whose fair cards end up doing better. My opponent is on the play, like they're obviously going to be able to leverage things like days, but hopefully by the time I get to something like endurance, the dazes have had their chance to act, like a malevolent rumble. Okay, cool. This is fine. The wasteland's more annoying than anything else because it might keep me off of endurance, and there's going to be a very real consideration of what land to play. I think with double Force of Vigor in hand, I play Boseiju as the land here and cast Malevolent Rumble. Land drop or endurance? I will already have a spawn to cast the first endurance here, and my deck is full of land. I think I will take an endurance, and I'm fully assuming that I get wastelanded, by the way. That's a Corey Steelcutter, and we are active. I don't think my opponent has a daze. I think the Malevolent Rumble was a pretty darn good daze target. I think I'm going to go ahead and gun for the Corey Steelcutter right now with Force of Vigor. Alright, I am correct in my evaluation. This does mean that I don't get wastelanded. And I think while I'm pretty darn sure my opponent does not have daze, I'm just going to cast this at the cost of this spawn. Clear out your graveyard. Then I can do this, drop a Shadow Spear, and pass the turn. I have the board stable-ish. Murktide's not currently on the table. There's a lot to like from my perspective here. I don't want to see another Corey Steelcutter. Okay, that's just a meltdown. That's fine. That's a meltdown that is trading for 1 Shadow Spear. Like, that's a very good card, but this is solid for me. Ooh, buddy. I'm just not going to give my opponent more draws towards counter spells. Just going to cast this now. If this resolves, I attack. If it doesn't, I don't attack. Get in there. Opponent's at 16 and is going to have to deal with 3 copies of Endurance. I think they need something crazy. This is where they need like their back to basics, their price of progress. They need something wild. Corey Steelcutter, obviously very helpful. Opponent has some cards in hand. Lightning Bolt my face. Sure. The opponent surveils their card to the top. They can't attack in successfully. I can Malevolent Rumble to try to find an out to Corey Steelcutter, but I'm not really sure that that's better than just playing another Endurance. I think I'm going to attack with just 1 of these. Opponent's at 12. I think following the same logic that I've been following, I'm just going to cast these before my opponent has extra draws at counterspells. I don't think their top card is a counterspell because they topped it off of DRC. They topped a Surgical Extraction before, which is kind of wild. And then they've got land drop. All right, you're coming in. I mean, I'm willing to block. I'm still trading with you if you hit my thing. Thundering Falls to graveyard there. This is fine. Opponent wastelands my Yavimaya. Bojuka Bog is solid. It'll stop something from a Murktide Regent coming down and ruining my life. Let's Malevolent Rumble. I'll take an Urza Saga from that. I think I just Bojuka Bog here. Bog you, and I'll hold back. Now my opponent is going to have a very tough time triggering Corey Steelcutter for extra monks. They're going to pass the turn without cracking the bauble. And they're going to crack the bauble now. That feels wrong. Like, what if this is a Daze style card, right? So, bam. Also, if you're not going to use your mana, you should probably just equip Corey Steelcutter to something as well. So there's Elvish Reclaimer. With that as a 3/4, I think I will go ahead and attack in. Opponent is at 9. So it is possible for them to go spell, and trigger Corey Steelcutter this turn. Ponder is a good start to do that. They say no to a Meltdown, which is very good in a couple of turns. But I think if this game lasts a couple of turns, I am incredibly favored. I am currently the beatdown. I am attacking for 6. My opponent is at 9. But if my opponent is going to win this, they probably need to become the beatdown, so they just need to do something that gets Elvish Reclaimer out of the way, chip in for some damage, and then try to find something that gets my next couple of creatures out of the way as well. Or again, if they have some sort of haymaker, like a Back to Basics or Price of Progress that can just really swing the game by itself. All right, just cantripping again, keeping their cards. There's a land drop to then shuffle 4 card types in graveyard. Yeah, this is exactly what my opponent needs to stay competitive. They get to hit me for 6 this turn. I can block here where this doesn't trample. Now I have to go back on the defensive, and they probably need to find something like a lightning bolt or a couple of cantrips to finish me off. I can't attack anymore. So I can block 2 of these 3 bodies. A prowess string could also do it here. Force of will to graveyard. Yeah, that's another spell. I believe that means I'm dead. I block one of these, I block one of these, I take 5. Yep. They needed to find that Unholy Heat specifically the previous turn because the other spells don't do it. Lightning Bolt does not kill Elvish Reclaimer and let them get in for damage. So I go block, I take 5, and I die the turn before I get Shadow Spear to stabilize. GG. Okay, I think the single land hand is just not going to do it here. Too much of the time we do not play Magic. Whereas this is going places. And I think the primary question here is, am I keeping the second Life from the Loam? Main deck Force of Negation is not very common. I think I will put back the second Life from the Loam. Tundra. Guide of Souls. Got it. Oh. Insane. Wasteland you, so I cannot be dazed. Mox Diamond. Discard Ancient Tomb. Mox Diamond. Discard Urza's Saga. Life from the Loam with 3 targets on turn 1. That is a Force of Will. That will buy my opponent a turn. It means that I don't get a real draw next turn. I just don't want to see Ocelot Pride come down right here. Yeah, Ponder is fine. I just don't want my opponent going wide of my Wasteland lock. I can take 1 from a Guide of Souls forever, but as soon as Ocelot Pride gets down, like, my whole Dredge Dirtle plan becomes way worse. Alright, Wasteland, Urza Saga, and Boseiju. That is a Daze that buys my opponent another draw step to find Ocelot Pride. Tundra comes back down. Fuck. So now I'm in a very bad position, because I kind of need to dredge to hit land drops, but this stuff goes harder than my traditional dredge stuff. I think I have to cast this once. I will get Urza Saga, Boseiju Wasteland, 1 and 2. I think I do use this turn to Wasteland still, but next turn I think I have to get Urza Saga started. I don't think I can dredge again if my opponent hits their next land drop, which they did. The flying is going to be problematic long term. This is a very tough spot for me. Crop rotation, Glacial Chasm. Yeah, okay. I mean, that is, I guess, a real plan. Let's go Soul Guide Lantern. Take some random card out of your graveyard. I don't expect that it matters. I go ahead and just immediately sacrifice this. I will take a real draw. That's a Pithing Needle. It's not super important here. I'll play it out for my artifact count. It also seems like my opponent is out of counterspell. Oh, my opponent let it resolve? Shit. I mean, yeah. I'll take it. I already made my land drop, right? Yeah, I already made my land drop. There is a Polluted Delta. Another Guide of Souls. Yep. So we're going to start seeing a bigger Ocelot Pride, I expect. And I'm correct. We'll take a fair amount of damage. My opponent will make some friends. I will dredge. I will dredge. So let's do this. Float this. Cast Crop Rotation. Sacrificing the Urza's Saga. I will get a... Oh my god, I just did something very stupid. Obviously meant to get Glacial Chasm there. I was thinking, oh, Yavimaya is great with Glacial Chasm. It'll let it make extra mana. And then I just fucked that up. Okay, that's on me. Oh wait, I did not have game 1 Glacial Chasm. Anyway, that was not a live line to be working towards. Fucked that up on multiple different levels. Generally speaking, I think this is going to be a very bad matchup for me. Like, I don't have the Tabernacle at Pendrelvale. I don't have multiple Maze of Iths. I don't have, blanking on the name, the Ratchet Bomb land. Blast Zone, oh my gosh. None of that either. I think I don't get to play with the stuff that looks like this. This is actively bad. Pithing Needle is not particularly strong either. Yikes, basically. I will get extra lands in here. And then a lot of this stuff just doesn't look good. Like, I can try to play Endurance. Nah, I think we're going to try to cheese a win. I don't think I beat this deck in a fair fight on average draws. Honestly, we had an insane life from the Loam hand, and it just wasn't good enough either. Hopefully Malevolent Rumble finds me a Loam. Mox Diamond, discard Ancient Tomb. I'm going to Mox Diamond again. I'm going to get rid of Maze of Ith. I'm going to Malevolent Rumble, and this way, if I hit Urza Saga, I can start trying to do Urza Saga from turn 1. Hey, it's Urza Saga. Now I get to attempt Urza Saga with Wasteland backup as my game plan forward. So it's a little harder for something like a small energy creature to just quickly run away with the game early on. Polluted Delta does not fetch basic planes. Ooh. This is going to play out ever so slightly differently from how I thought it was. So bam, and bam. There's Sphere of Resistance. That eats a Force of Will. This is fine. I still have mana to activate Urza's Saga. Opponent does not fetch end of turn. They need their second mana source. And we're chilling, for sure. Like, opponent is Jeskai, so they probably have Amped Raptor in there too. Meltdown. Meltdown. So that's going to take out both my copies of Mox Diamond. And then there's a Guide of Souls. Sure. I will make a Construct token still. I wonder if it was correct for my opponent to wait one more turn there. Shame I don't have green mana. Float 1. Yeah, I have such cool things I can do if I have green mana for crop rotation this turn, but I don't. It's not Dreadnought, it's not Mox Diamond, it's one of the two pieces of equipment. I'm going to do Shadow Spear. So, make land drop, go for equip, send in for 3. Opponent goes to 14. I'm going to take my opponent off of white, because white gets Ocelot Pride going. It's a lightning bolt to take out my creature. At least there's not more stuff coming into play. Immediate crop rotation for Wasteland is tempting here. I don't think I get to do that. This wall's Guide of Souls. And next turn, maybe I think about crop rotation. Ponder's fine. Alright, that is a shuffle. That is not another land, which is fine by me. If I lose one of these, do I want it to be Yavimaya or Forest? This is Wastelandable, but this helps out some of my other mana sources. I think it's Forest, and I think I go for doing this immediately. This is counterable. The Elvish Reclaimer activation is not. Force of Negation. Sure. I think I will attack in here. My opponent is at the lower life total. Not to mention that, like, Shadow Spear long-term will help a lot. Ooh, opponent randomly hit the other land drop off the top of their deck. That's very, very important for them. Yeah, that means that they get to play Magic again, which I was trying to avoid, because I think when they play Magic, I lose. I'll take 1 here. And now my attacks and blocks both become very awkward. I can solve that in the medium term, maybe, with something like Karakas. I think it's too easy for me to lose if I just go in with Shadow Spear. Like, the cat blocks, they take 3 damage, but then have an active Planeswalker that I can't, like, bounce out of play. Sure. I think there is a very good chance that my opponent overwhelms me. There's a land drop. Trigger. I think I'm going to block and phase out Ajani. That's a very good short-term plan. Less good long-term. So there's Talon Gates, phase Ajani out. So we get the cat token for free, and now my attacks in via Shadow Spear are better. Now stop playing shit. God damn it. That's particularly annoying. I guess I'm running the same line back, which means I'm not attacking. So this is going to phase in and legend rule. Now I have to do this again. Sacrifice. Talon Gates. I don't get to do that again. That's the last time I can do that trick. But Guide of Souls gets to start doing aggressive things. I assume it will make itself fly here. I'm correct. Taking a lot of damage. Life from the Loam is really cool. Maze of Ith is a big get. I'm going to do Maze of Ith and 2 other lands. It doesn't super matter what they are. I'm going to lose my shit if your 1 card is Force of Negation. God damn it. That is incredibly frustrating. I was going to be able to do, like, completely swing the game in my favor that turn. I don't get to block here. How much loyalty do you have on the backside again? You start at 3, could be up to 5. Yeah, I don't think I get to block. I'm at 11. Crop rotation is not super strong here. I'm ready for your 1 card to be a removal spell. My body is ready. Alright. Send in for 4. Alright. So the plan is now Elvish Reclaimer beatdown in the face of my opponent's life gain and scaling and threat of Planeswalker. Is not great for me. Sorcery speed removal spell instead. Alright. With 2 of my Talon Gates gone, my crop rotation is pretty weak. I need a live draw on my next turn. I'm going to take 5 here. Then it is pretty close to lethal the following turn. I think I need something else. If I don't hit, we have to start thinking about crop rotation or Glacial Chasm lines, which I don't want to do. Yeah, because without the life from the Loam, that's pretty rough. Malevolent Rumble. We're going to do that. I guess if these both tap for green, let's do this one. So there's Malevolent Rumble. Did hit life from the Loam. Okay, cool. Do this. So I have another green source that's not the Yavimaya. Play Boseiju. I guess before you can untap and have... let's do this. Another Force of Negation. We'll do this. There's the Glacial Chasm. I will sacrifice a land. So I am going to need to... I don't know. I guess the Mox Diamond is going to be good enough. It's when this life from the Loam gets countered that I die. I will get back just basically any 3 lands this turn. It doesn't super matter what they are. Wastelands, Forest, Maze of Ith maybe. 1 and 2. That is a Force of Will. That is incredibly bad. My opponent's just going to pass the turn back. I now have to sacrifice the Glacial Chasm. I physically cannot pay the life. I dredge life from the Loam. I go for Glacial Chasm, and then just any other lands. 1 and 2. Play Glacial Chasm. Sacrifice a Boseiju. Play a Mox Diamond. Discard a land. Shadow Spear, equip on an Eldrazi spawn. So now every turn I need to replay Glacial Chasm, and this does not work long term. I just have to sacrifice this, and then it eats my previous land drop as well. So I don't know how I get out of this hole. Oh, sure. All right. We are not winning matches that look like this one. GG's. All right, what are we doing here? Make a land drop. Or maybe make a land drop, Mox Diamond, discard this, Elvish Reclaimer on 1. This is fine. I think my opponent tends to play Goblins, which I expect to lose to if the last matchup is any indicator. I think they also play Doomsday. I just don't know that we beat go wide creature decks ever. Wasteland, Aether Vial. You've got it. Mox Diamond. Discard Bojuka Bog. That's not relevant here. And I think there's nobody to phase out. Relax, Talon Gates. I think I am just going to do this immediately, despite the fact that this will accelerate my opponent on mana. I think the land that I give them is less scary than the Aether Vial. I don't want to have to play around the surprise of end of turn Goblin Lackey, and when that gets to higher mana, the things you can do with, the Goblin Matrons and the Goblin Recruiters are kind of ridiculous. Okay, another one. And a Horde Master. Sure. I'm probably starting here. I would love to find a Life from the Loam, which I did not. Wastelanding my opponent into oblivion in the face of the second Aether Vial is incredibly awkward. Still doing it? I'm still doing it. Wasteland. I think take out your Wasteland. The Black Source doesn't do too much right now. Really wanted that Malevolent Rumble to hit a Loam. Yeah, that's what the Black Source does. It kills my spawn token. That's fine. I think I'd rather have access to the Urza Saga, which I think now is becoming my plan. I really want to strip my opponent of resources. I think this is the plan, though. Without access to exploration, I just don't keep up in these fair matches very well. These fair go-wide creature matches, specifically. All right. Maze of Ith. Cool. I might just be making a 12-12 next turn. Where is my Pithing Needle? Is my Pithing Needle in the Game 1 deck? Yes, it is. Okay. In that case, let's do this. Pass turn here. Hope that nothing too broken happens with the Aether Vials before I needle them. Sure. This is what I did not want to see. This can now be Skark Prospector, which can do some very, very, very disgusting things. Yeah. So now Horde Master triggers twice for each one of these. What is the exact wording here? If it's a goblin card. Sting Scourger and Pashalik Mons. Going in further. Munitions Expert, no black mana available. Going deeper. One of the last two cards, just a Muxus. Goblin Ringleader. Yep. See how crazy this is? Not too bad. Goblin Lackey, Mog Fanatic. Mog Fanatic is sack, deal 1 damage to any target, just in case you aren't familiar with that one. There's the Lackey. So end of turn. Make a friend. Then I might just go ahead and rotate this into another land rather than make a construct token. Nah, I'll make the construct token. It's pretty big. So there's 3/3s. There's Pithing Needle, which I think I will still do on Aether Vial. So here's Mox Diamond, Junket Talon Gates, just play a reasonable land, crash in for 5. Opponent goes to 12, and I have Elvish Reclaimer available. I am not in danger of a Muxus coming down immediately, unless my opponent has Ancient Tomb and Muxus as their 2 unknown cards. I can turn this into another Urza Saga to keep growing these construct tokens. There's a Cavern of Souls. There's a Sting Scourger. These are until the end of your next turn. Maybe I needed to phase out Skark Prospector. No, I've used both Talon Gates. So that's happening. So 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana. It's Broadside now. 2 mana. Undo. Undo it all. Og Fanatic. And now opponent is just passing the turn, so the ability to cast all that stuff goes away. So I will go bam, bam. Sack Talon Gates. Wasteland on Cavern of Souls is okay. I might just go ahead and do that. Keeping my opponent from casting a big thing like Muxus is kind of a priority. So I'll Wasteland that Cavern of Souls. So now I cast Dreadnought with 1 not quite in range to do what I want there. I think that's fine. I'll send in for 4, leave 1 creature back. Opponent is at 8. Files tick up. Wasteland. think my opponent's last card is a Muxus, despite the fact that I was trying to keep them off that as much as possible. That's frustrating. Bling Gang, Lieutenant, and Munitions Expert. So nothing with haste. I don't have Caracas right now. I don't have Glacial Chasm right now. Not great. This is a lot of blockers too. Munitions Expert on Elvish Reclaimer. Plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Bam, bam. Sack you. Get a Gardens. Lose this. Play Dreadnought. And that's enough for my opponent to concede the game. Alright, I mean, I very clearly identified what was important, right? It was keeping my opponent off of Muxus. And they were fishing very hard for it early in the game, so they understood that as well. Game's a different story if, like, a haste enabler happens there, I think. Alright, Disruptor Flute is reasonable. Raucous, Glacial Chasm, Haywire Might are reasonable. I could consider Endurance. I'm not excited about it. Soul Guide Lantern can go... Is it Sphere? I think it's probably Sphere, especially on the draw, where just a turn 1 Goblin Lackey can come down and ruin my life. Kind of bad versus Goblin Lackey. Bojuka Bog can turn into Caracas. Then I'm +1 land that does not make any mana. I will play an Endurance, and that rounds things out. This is frustrating. So turn 1 Elvish Reclaimer is my best way to fight against turn 1 Goblin Lackey, but I don't actually have turn 1 green mana. I have turn 2 green mana. Sorry, I just spilled a little water. What are we doing here? I think this just has to be a mulligan. This is a very reluctant keep. I'm going to throw back Glacial Chasm. We can tutor forth that much, much, much later in the game if we need it. Scalding Tarn. There's the Goblin Lackey. I have the Maze of Ith keep to invalidate that. If my opponent has Wasteland as well as a follow-up, well, I did what I could do. What do you want me to do? I go to 19. There's Goblin Matron. That gets Muxus for next turn. So I need to draw exactly Elvish Reclaimer. I did not draw exactly Elvish Reclaimer, in which case I believe that I am dead to that Muxus. I'll confirm. Maybe the Muxus just reveals all mountains, in which case they still just have a 4/4 or larger Muxus creature that gets to attack me. Prevail land. Take 2. Then we see how bad the Muxus is. Bad. I'm comfortable conceding there and saving 2 minutes of my life. So on the play, I could play Sphere of Resistances to try to choose a win. But like once we get into the mid-game, the spheres aren't really great anymore, as I might need a bunch of mana to do things like activate Talon Gates, Mycosynth Gardens, Urza Sagas, whatever. My fair mid-range stuff. That is all mana. It's not terrible, honestly. It doesn't die immediately to Goblin Lackey. I hate this hand. I don't think it's a mulligan, but I sure do hate it. Just one singular spell so that I can do something with my turn 1 mana. Just vastly improves this hand. Play Urza Saga. Pass. Badlands and Aether Vial. Seems good. Crop Rotation. I get Crop Rotation for a Wasteland immediately. I don't think that is the best here. I'm going to use this Crop Rotation next turn on Urza Saga, which requires me to play Ancient Tomb this turn. Which is awkward. I would like to keep my life total as high as possible because I have Glacial Chasm. Ye Old Rashadan Port. You've got it. Make a friend. Would you like to port me? I'm activating this anyway. Yeah. Now I would like to not draw Pithing Needle. Alright, cool. So now, Crop Rotation, sack the Urza Saga that is going away anyway. Pick up a Wasteland. Urza Saga trigger. Got the Lackey. Got Skirk Prospector, sure. There's Pithing Needle. I believe Aether Vial is still the scarier card here. Name that. Wasteland, your Badlands. Play Maze of Ith. And in for 4. Then pass turn. I've got 8 power on board with the opponent with the ability to keep digging. This is fine. Boardmaster is very good for my opponent. This is probably very good for me. Just thinking about how exactly I want to do this, because I have lines where I just phase something out on my opponent's turn. I think I want to look for a wasteland. I think that's worth 2 life here. Did not find it. Found Shadow Spear. I have Dreadnought for the following turn as well. I think this is just good. I can go ahead and make land drop, cast Shadow Spear. I don't think I need my maze available, so I will just do this. This is 11 incoming damage. All right, opponent is going to take a chump there. There's a War Chief in exile. And next turn I can play or put in Talon Gates as a way to take a blocker out of the way to help swing lethal. Land drop. There's a Goblin Matron or Goblin Trashmaster. Is a pretty darn good card. I think I am phasing out. I can attack in, kill Goblin Matron, deal my opponent 6. My opponent can sacrifice Skirk Prospector to play Goblin Trashmaster. I can basically force Skirk Prospector to die right here. Or I could save Talon Gates to phase out a Construct token when my opponent attempts to destroy it. Not sure which is better. I can also Mox Diamond Glacial Chasm here and swing a little bit more damage. Is probably fine as a whole. I think I need that. Bam and bam. That's all expected. Opponent goes to 3, and I'll pass. So either one of these is just lethal, and there is the concession. We only put up 2 wins in this league. I think we're going to have some pretty serious weaknesses playing this deck, so I think that's a fine finish. GG's. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Cool for what it is. We did do some Phyrexian Dreadnought things throughout the league. I think our Life from the Loam stuff was more powerful than our Phyrexian Dreadnought stuff, though, as a whole. I think wastelanding opponents out of the game and replaying Urza Sagas and Boseijus was better than doing the whole Dreadnought thing. Dreadnought thing can be powerful, and it can be a way to do a quick kill. I'm not convinced that this is better than just maxing out on Maze of Ithas and just having a more robust deck. There are a lot of colorless sources in this deck, or at least colorless sources on turn 1, making Elvish Reclaimer worse. We did see Elvish Reclaimer doing some work in some matchups, though. I don't know that it should not be in this deck. I don't think this is an optimal lands deck, but this was honestly a pretty cool design. I don't know that the Glacial Chasm belongs in the deck. Without exploration for the additional land drops, Glacial Chasm is a ticking clock at the end of the game. And if most of your resources are going towards like loaming your lands back, that probably doesn't leave you with much mana to like keep progressing your board to the point where you can win. I think we are fully soft to go wide creature decks. Like, I know we beat goblins at the end there, but that energy matchup felt pretty close to unwinnable. Phyrexian Dreadnought dying to white removal very easily, be that like Prismatic Ending or Swords to Plowshares or Solitude, is probably going to make that matchup worse. But generally speaking, I like what's here a lot. This was a fun deck. I don't think it's overly competitive, but this is a fine deck to show up to your local FNM or play a couple of leagues with. I'll give it my thumbs up in that capacity. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. I hope you all enjoyed. Have a great rest of the day, folks. See ya.